All right, today we're going on a mission. I'm talking about a biological launch sequence that is honestly one of the most intricate and powerful processes in all of nature. We're going to go deep inside the male reproductive system to figure out how this whole thing actually works. So let's get right into it. I mean, just let that sink in for a second. We're talking about a process that takes more than 2 months of careful, microscopic prep work, and it all ends in an event that's over in like a fraction of a second. So how in the world does the body pull off that kind of timing and precision? Well, that's exactly what we're going to break down right now. So here's our game plan, our mission briefing. We've got 5 key stages. First, we'll check in with mission control, which is, you guessed it, the brain. Then we'll take a tour of the sperm factory. After that, it's all about the 2-phase launch, emission and then expulsion. And to wrap it all up, we'll see how this whole thing comes together in what you can only call a coordinated symphony. Okay. First stop, mission control. And, this might surprise you, but this whole incredible biological journey, it doesn't actually start where you might think. Nope. It all kicks off right up here, in the brain. This is basically the command structure for the whole operation. It's a powerful hormonal axis that all begins in the brain. Think of the brain as the general, sitting at the top, sending out orders down the chain of command. This creates this amazing communication network that controls, well, the entire reproductive system. So, how does this chain of command actually work? Well, it's what we call a hormonal cascade. It all starts with step 1. The hypothalamus kicks things off by releasing something called GnRH. You can think of GnRH as the master switch for the whole operation. That signal zips over to the pituitary gland, which brings us to step 2. The pituitary gets the message and sends out its own signals. 2 really important hormones, LH and FSH. These 2 are like messengers, traveling all the way down to the testes with one simple, clear order. Get to work, begin production. And the reason it's a multi-step process like this, it allows for some incredibly fine-tuned control. But what's really cool about this is that it isn't just a one-way street. It's not just the brain barking orders. This whole system, which scientists call the HPG axis, is actually a super sophisticated feedback loop. The testes don't just follow orders, they send back status reports. So when hormone levels are just right, they send a signal back up to the brain that basically says, okay, you can ease up a bit. This is called a negative feedback loop, and it's what keeps everything in perfect balance. It's a truly brilliant self-regulating system. All right, the orders from mission control have been sent and received. So now, let's head on over to section 2, the sperm factory itself. We're going to zoom way in, down to the microscopic level, to see where the mission's payload gets put together. And let me tell you, this assembly line is not fast. At all. We're talking about 64 to 74 days. That's right, over 2 months. That's how long it takes to build just one single mature sperm cell completely from scratch. It's just an incredible display of biological patience, really. So where does this all happen? Inside these hundreds of tiny coiled tubes called the seminiferous tubules. You can think of them as the factory floor. The whole process is broken down into 6 distinct stages. And what you can see here is that the brand new immature cells start way out on the edge, and then they slowly move toward the center of the tube, developing and maturing with every single step of the way. Now, the most important part of this whole thing is the genetic transformation. It's pretty amazing. The starting cell, the spermatogonium, is what we call diploid. That just means it has a full instruction manual, 46 chromosomes, just like most other cells in the body. But through a special 2-step division process, it becomes haploid. And that means it ends up with only 23 chromosomes, exactly half of the original set. And why is this so critical? Because it needs to combine with an egg, which also brings 23 chromosomes to the table, to create a brand new genetically complete person with the correct total of 46. But here's the thing. The developing cells don't make this long journey all by themselves. They have helpers. They're constantly supported by what are called nurse cells, the Sertoli cells. And these cells are the unsung heroes of the factory. They provide the structure, they deliver all the nutrients, they're like the support crew that helps move everything along the assembly line. Without them, the whole factory would just grind to a halt. They're absolutely essential. Okay, the factory has done its job. Production is complete. The payload is ready. Now we get to the main event, the climax of the mission, the launch sequence. It all kicks off with phase 1, emission. The best way to think about this is like the internal countdown, the final loading procedure before liftoff. You see, the final event is really a 2-part story. First, you have emission.
That's the loading phase. All the sperm and fluids get moved into the starting gate, basically. Then you have phase 2, expulsion. And that's the launch, the actual forceful ejection. They happen one right after the other, almost instantly, but they are two totally separate events controlled by different nerves and muscles.
So let's get into the mechanics of phase 1, emission. It starts with a signal from your sympathetic nerves. That's the automatic part of your nervous system, the fight or flight response. That signal causes a bunch of smooth muscles to contract, and that pushes everything into position. But here's the really clever part, a brilliant little safety feature. The neck of the bladder clamps down hard and seals itself off. This is absolutely crucial because it makes sure there's no backward flow. The payload has only one way to go, forward.
All right, countdown is over. Payload is loaded and in position. It's time for phase 2, expulsion. This is it, liftoff. This second that fluid fills up the space, it triggers a whole new reflex. A different set of signals from a different nerve takes over. And this nerve unleashes these powerful, rhythmic contractions from the muscles down there. At the exact same time, the external sphincter relaxes, opening the gate. The result? A series of powerful pulses that eject the fluid. And just like that, mission accomplished. Okay, let's just pause for a second and zoom back out to see the big picture here. Because this isn't just a random series of events, one happening after the other. What we've just witnessed is a perfectly coordinated biological symphony. Now, the official scientific name for all this is the ejaculatory reflex. And yeah, the definition sounds pretty technical, a complex neurobiological event. But really, that's just the fancy way of saying it's an absolutely incredible feat of coordination. It requires perfect split-second timing between the brain, the spinal cord, and a whole orchestra of muscles and nerves, all playing their part in perfect harmony. So why does it even matter that we understand this symphony? Well, I think this quote really gets to the heart of it. Because when something goes wrong in this incredibly complex process, it doesn't just affect cells, it affects people, their lives, their families. Understanding the biology is always the first step for sure, but we can't ever forget the human story that's right at the center of all this science. So from a 70-plus day manufacturing marathon to a split-second launch, we've just walked through an amazing feat of biological engineering. So I guess I'll just leave you with this thought. This entire intricate process is fundamental to how life itself continues. So what is this unbelievable level of microscopic precision happening inside our very own bodies all the time? Tell us about the incredible systems that power not just us, but all life on Earth. Something to think about. Thanks for joining me.